to the best, but I want y'all to carry this lesson with you when you leave and help people understand what God's intent was. He intended for all of us to work. You know, I wondered myself, I can safely say, you know, when you go by somebody's house and the grass has grown up to the windows, you know, and somebody says, they need their grass cut. And then somebody replies, I'm not going to cut their grass. They sleep till dinner time every day, and they got a lawnmower sitting out there that somebody donated to them, and they won't use it. Now, I've had that. I've heard that before, you know. But here's what we're looking at. He that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causeth shame. Plant the seed, crop grows, come time for harvest, we don't go. You just can't. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's raining. The wind's blowing too hard. Have you ever thought about all the excuses people use not to work? I mean, it's easy to find excuses not to do something when it comes to work. It's easy. You know, years ago, and probably Brother Wallace knows this as much as anybody, and some of Vicky's people that are old, if you didn't grow a garden and you didn't have a few hogs and some pigs and some cows and some chickens and stuff like that, you'd pretty much go hungry. You know, because there wasn't a whole lot of people in the community that could do anything except try to help themselves. But you know, those people that was willing to put in a garden, and they work. And you know, gardening is, anybody, you know, y'all know what gardening is. Gardening is hard. Well, you know, you think about it. Somebody said, well, how did her mama live to be over 100? You know what they did? They growed everything they eat right side the house. And when I started dating her, you know, the cows and the pigs and the chickens, there's all there. And you know what? There wasn't too many trips to the grocery store. They growed the stuff. They baled the hay. You know, they fed the chickens and the hogs. I mean, that's just part of it. That's how you live. You worked. But now we're living in a society where I'm going to take Bruce's money and I'm going to give it over here to somebody that won't work, and I'll help them out. You know, that's not the way it works. Let's look at this. Now, somebody say, well, you got up on the wrong side of the bed. No, I didn't. I'm just thinking about something that's really important. Look at Proverbs 12, verse number 24, and verse number 27. Terry, I'm coming to you on this one. Proverbs 12, verse number 24 and 27.
The hand of diligence will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad.
Okay. Now,
27, the lazy man.
27. 27.
The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is man's precious possession.
Okay. You ought to think about this. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the lazy man, the slothful, the word slothful, you know, it used to be, before old Gathan died, he'd use that word. He said, I'd never really heard that word. So, you know, he was definitely not a lazy man, but he'd say slothful. He said, I'm going to use that word. And he started talking to just about anybody he come in contact with, it wouldn't work. He said, you know, you're one of the most slothful people I've ever known. That was just his way. But the hand of the diligent bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Now, as he's reading that, the slothful man roasteth not, but that which he took in honey. You ever think about this? What if it were to be that we went back to a time in history, which we don't, you know, it's not like that anymore, but you ever thought about the Native American people that was here before anybody else, you know, and how they actually lived? You know, if they didn't go out and find something that God had provided and bring it back in the way of hunting or fishing, either one, you know, they went hungry, or if they didn't grow seed from some of the things that they kept. And, you know, used to be you didn't have a hardware store, or you didn't have a place you could go and just buy the seed. You know how people did it back then? If they ever grew something and they cut that watermelon, they cut that cantaloupe, or something, you know what they did? Or those peas, you know, that they shelled, you know what they did? Same thing Mr. Wallace doing today. Save those seeds. And then you go back the next year and you plant those seeds. And then you carry some over to the next year, and then the next year. I mean, this is what the Bible teaches. It's not what I think. This is what the Bible teaches. That's exactly right. I mean, how many times have you gone down the road, and I know Terry's probably seen it, you have a whole stringer of fish somebody's thrown out, or a whole bucket load of fish that somebody caught, and they throw it out. Why would you do that? Too lazy to clean them. You know. That's just the way life is. And boy, this is really and truly a serious time in life. You can't hardly hire nobody to work no more. I mean, it's almost impossible. If there's any work, go find somebody to lay block and brick right now. Man told me the other day, he said, Gary, I just don't know. He said, I've been talked to 10 different people. Go find somebody to lay brick and block, you know, or a good framer on a house. You know, go find somebody. People don't work no more. Let's look at something else. Proverbs 13:4. Proverbs 13:4. Gene, I'd like for you to read that one.
The soul of the sluggish and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat.
Okay. The soul of the sluggard, and why he desireth, but he hath nothing. Wonder why? Because he's lazy. That's exactly right. Because he's lazy. You know, it's so sad to think about this. And I'll tell you something else. You know what laziness will do? It will kill your health. Now, I'm serious with you. If you never get up and you never do nothing, and you always lay in the bed and you don't work, you know what's going to happen? It won't be long until your health begins to fail you.
And you know that idle mind is one of the most dangerous things in the world.
That's a good point you just made, Rita. The idle mind is one of the most dangerous things there is, because all it's doing is concocting something put together that's not worth any profit. Exactly. Now, Proverbs 18:9. Proverbs 18:9. I'm coming back around. Rodney, how about you reading that? I see you back over there. Put you in the mix here. The person that's slothful in their work. Look what he said. He's a brother to him that is a great waster. What do you suppose a great waster is? You may got any idea about that? Destroyer. He pretty much just, you know, have you ever known, there's some people that can take care of most anything and they can make it last. And you know, years ago, I thought about this when I was just a little boy growing up. And then when I got old enough to get a car, my daddy helped me with a $400 car. You know, I was working, I was catching chickens. Mama had signed the paperwork for me to work for the state. And I thought about it. Those guys out there, their mom and daddy's buying one, and they get out there and they just spin the tires plumb off of them. You know what I didn't ever do? I never did spin my tires. And I still drive down the road 50 miles an hour. And there's a reason for that. I want that thing to last, and I don't need to be buying those tires, being a waster. You know, so, well, you know, Mom and Daddy get me some more. That's the problem. That's the problem. You know, I remember very well when I was going to school how it was. You know, some of those guys get out there and just burn their tires off. Why? You know, somebody's got to pay for them. They weren't working and paying for them. And, you know, it makes a difference, you know, and I really applaud the fact, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for people that taught me you need to work. And if you don't work, then you ain't going to have anything, you know. And here's what we got to do. Let's look at another one. Proverbs 19, verse 15. And, you know, We're looking at verse 15, we're looking at verse 24. Proverbs 19, verse 15, verse 24. Let's get some of our guests. Joe, would you want to read that for us?
19, 24.
Yeah, you're gonna read verse 15 first and then verse 24 second.
Lazy cast one into deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. A lazy man buries his hand in the bowl, and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again.
That's that person that's so lazy the flies won't lie on, and that's true. When you think about this, the lazy man casts into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. I think this would work if we would use the Bible to govern with today. Guess what you would see more of? You'd see a lot of people out working today. You wouldn't have to look for somebody to do something. There'd be people out there saying, hey man, you got anything I can do? And they'd be more than willing to do it if we'd use the Bible as our government. But they won't do that. And then when you think about the second part of this, that slothful man hides his hand in his bosom and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Whew. I've thought about, from a little baby, if you teach that baby, and I've watched them, there's little children that mamas and daddies that are not slothful, not lazy. A lot of times those little children, they'll know how to take care of themselves before they're just knee high. They know how to take their bottle, and they know how to hold their bottle. They know how to take their spoon and get their food. But if you feed them all the time, if you don't give them an opportunity to learn, guess what will happen? When they get old, they'll be just like a lot of these people we see out here today. They'll be sleeping till 12, 1 o'clock in the day, won't get up, and then when they get up, they got a call in order, and somebody bring it to their door, and then somebody just about got to put it in their mouth. And I'm serious with you. That's the way things are nowadays. I've thought about this, and I don't mean this, ladies, in a bad way, because I think most of y'all are the best of the best, or you wouldn't be here. How many people cook today? Now, you don't have to raise your hand. I mean, I can tell you. That woman over there, she knows what I'm talking about. She cooks day and night. We got enough to feed 50 folks in the car right now. But here's the deal. You got to work. Cooking is work. Ladies, y'all know that. Cooking is work. And it's so easy just to run through the drive-thru, and that stuff's killing us all. Well, let's go a little bit further. So get off your high horse, and I'm going to try it in just a minute. But here's what we got to look at. Proverbs 20, verse 4, and verse number 13. Proverbs 20, verse number 4, verse number 13. I'm back to my right-hand side over here. Linda, I hadn't heard from you in the back. Let's look at this. Verse number 13. Okay. Okay. Let's look at this. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. This is kind of sad. But you hear people say, well, I'm not going to do it today, it's too cold. Or I'm not going to do it today, it's too hot. Now, there is times when it's too hot. There is times when it's too cold. But I can tell you, if you ever have to work for a living, and you work for somebody that's got to pay a salary to you, I did for 28 years, it don't get too cold, and it don't get too hot. And it's kind of like, there again, I use a friend of mine that's passed on, in the logging industry. He said, it don't get too wet. It don't get too cold. It don't get too muddy. It don't get too hot. You got to go. Equipment payments and people that work for you, they got to have a payday, and you got to make a payday. And it's real. This is where we're at. If we would use the biblical principle, and thank God, Vic and I both made it a point to teach our son to work. And now he works 80, 90 hours a week, bless his heart. And I don't know how much longer he can hold out to do it, but that's what he does. And the reason for that is he knows he's got to work. He knows he's got to work. And you know, it can be exhausting, it can be tiresome, it can be unhealthy, but at the same time, you have to take care of yourself, but you got to work. It can't get too cold, it can't get too hot. It can't get too wet, and it can't get, I mean, it's just so sad that people find an excuse at any given turn. He loves the fact that if somebody's dying and he can save their life, that puts a star in his crown. And that helps him. But here's Proverbs 21, verse 25. All right, Pam. Proverbs 21, 25.
The desire of the slothful killeth him, but for his hands refuse to labor.
Verse 26.
Accept freely all day long, the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not.
Okay. Now, these two verses, and we're going to end with this because our time is up. The desire of the slothful kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. I think work's good for you. I don't know if y'all agree with that or not, but I think work's good for you. Even, you know, after I got through with the treatments, I try my best every day to do something, you know. Even when I can't get up, I try to do something. You know, it's important. The desire of the slothful kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. Put your mind in gear. Let your body follow as much as it can. Now, it may be that sometimes we become disabled and we can't work. And I want to give merit to this. If it's to the point where you're disabled and you can't work and your health has failed you, I don't see a problem with helping. I don't see a problem at all with the system of our government. I don't see a problem with helping. If it's truly that way. But for the most part, a lot of times it's not truly that way. Now, here's another thing. He coveteth greedily all the day long. I've often said, if you want something in life, and somebody else has got it, and you're looking at that, and you say, well, man, I'd love to have one of them. Work and get you one of them. Work and get you one of them. You know, anything is achievable. You know, and I used to talk to people all the time about what can bring success to you. And one of the things that brings success to you is working and put your mind in gear and utilize your mind. You know, use what God gave you to put yourself in a situation where you can prosper. Pam knows this as well as I do. You can prosper if you put your mind in gear and work toward it. You can do that. All right, our time's up. Any thoughts, comments, or questions before I quit? Well, sometimes I get up and I think, we need to talk about this. And I'll tell you what causes that sometimes. It's people that causes me to look at things in the Bible. Because I know some people right now that's so lazy. I'm telling you the truth, the flies won't light on them because there's nothing there. Just a glob. And they got plenty of stamina. They could do anything they want to, but they're so lazy they won't do it. And that's sad. Anyway, let's break for just a moment and ring the bell.